You are not within range.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Within Range podcast. Snoop Eastwood, Don Juan. The ear god is not with us physically, but always with us in spirit.
Always in our hearts.
Jared, excited to have this guest on today.
Huge for us.
I mean, when you talk about this man, it's hard not to talk about how diverse his bag is.
We'll talk about it.
We'll get into it. But like guitar player, singer, songwriter, hit maker,
Skater. Survivor.
Yeah, yes.
Fighter.
Damn, I didn't even have those ones written down.
Just came to me, dude.
Love it. But man, yeah, he's been making crazy noise out here in AZ for quite some time now. Stoked to learn more about his story and background. We've been keeping up with him for a while. From right here in Phoenix, Arizona, we are here with Blue Dog, a.k.a. Azul. The Kaleidoscope kid is in the building today.
Pleasure. I'm just fucking stoked to be here.
We'll get the claps
claps
in.
going.
Drew will add the claps. But man, this has been, again, we've been keeping up. You know, you've definitely been making an impact in your musical career, your journey. Just talking before the pod, you're in stuff we didn't even know you were involved in, kind of behind the scenes. So thank you for being here, and we're excited to learn more about you.
Thank you guys for having me. Now, between we have mutual friends between the squad and Kyrie and people like that, so I'm happy to be here.
Definitely.
Awesome, man. So we like to, start by taking it back a bit, work our way to where we're at now. Phoenix, Arizona, that's your home, right?
Yes, born and raised.
Can you tell us, for those, who are here and maybe not from here, where in Phoenix specifically did you grow up, maybe?
I grew up in Peoria, so I went to Peoria High School.
West side.
On the west side, yes. So, and just a little skate rat out there growing up.
I heard you were quite the skater, to say the least.
I was decent, but I was around a bunch of extremely talented people, and more than anything, I always was the one with the video camera, and so like we'd go skate from morning to night, and then I'd get back at night and be editing all day, or editing all night, and posting something on YouTube, before I went to sleep.
What year was that?
I was probably maybe 14 or 15,
Wow.
so 15
so
years
YouTube
ago.
was still going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, putting stuff on there, and then I was around just so many talented people, and so it was amazing. Arizona has just such a great skate scene.
Yeah.
Like some of the gnarliest skaters.
Didn't know that.
You got a good landscape for it.
And you have to be insane because it's like a fucking 1,000 degrees.
Fall on the asphalt, fall on the choya.
Yeah.
Dark concrete.
You are a psycho for doing it out here.
Wow. I also might have heard that back, in your early skate days, you worked at a Sonic.
Yes.
And you used to bless maybe some of the homies.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Tell me about, I guess, what was that time like, right? Because skating, a lot of us, for us, were pivotal back in the day. Then, you had the hip-hop mix with it. I mean, do you remember what that scene was like back then and how that kind of transformed you in a way? Or?
Yeah, for sure. My brother and I would always joke that, our entire music taste came from skate videos. Whether it was, really, big skate videos like Lakai or Girl or something like that, or it was real local stuff like that. You were going through these just such the most eclectic types of music in the skate scene. And then I moved from Peoria to Union Hills on 59th Avenue.
Yeah.
And so Union Hills Skate Park was right next to my house. So I could just skate through the creek down to my to work and
down
go
the wash.
Down the wash.
That's awesome.
And go
Beautiful.
to the skate park. And then I was at the this working all the time, and I knew everybody at the skate park, and I would just always give people free stuff. Okay.
Listen,
manager's not around.
$3.99's everyone's favorite price.
I was a really good employee, even though I was a stoner and doing all this stuff. I would always work really hard and stuff, and it was Sonic, so it was there was nothing much to do.
It's a layup.
And I could catch a break for doing stuff, so I got away with a lot there as a young kid. And at that time, it was fun.
What's cherry limeade slush between friends? Yeah,
Some cherry.
It's the least you could ask for.
Free marketing.
Cherry syrup and that. There you go. Yeah, no, I'd give him some slushies, give him some food, especially if you came at the end of the night, because we would just throw away the leftovers.
Oh.
I would just give bags of
the homies knew.
Oh my god! I mean, at a point in your life, that's like when you're younger, that would be like a more adult version of like knowing a club owner
Yeah,
and getting in
literally.
VIP or like just
Exactly.
free drinks, knowing the bartender. Like that's
Exactly,
a huge
exactly.
connect
Yeah,
back in the
yeah,
day.
it was
That's
big.
that's the plug back then.
That is the
Yeah.
plug for sure.
But no, that definitely made me more developed more relationships at the skate park because of that. I think, like, which was cool.
Well, from what I understand, you might have developed one of the most important relationships, Matt.
Yes.
I think that's how y'all met originally.
Yeah, that was how we met originally, and then he came up. I mean, he would come in, and I just remember, I literally have a vivid memory of him and another buddy of his, Eric, sitting down at a table one day. And he would always be wearing like either like a SpongeBob hat or a Cookie Monster's hat or some sort of like abstract
Nice.
hat. You know
Yeah,
what I
I
mean?
like that.
And so then I moved up to Sedona, and then I met him again when I got up there, maybe like a year later, or
Oh, wow.
ppen like 4 months after.
On
I
some
moved up there.
happenstance
you,
type stuff.
you
or-
like didn't really meet at the
Like we knew each other, you know what I mean, at the
Oh,
skate
okay,
park. But it
okay.
wasn't like we like talked and hung out like that. It was
Maybe
like,
like, "What's up, dude?"
Exactly. It was
Yeah.
like, what's up, dude? You know what I mean?
and then you
like
saw him go into Sonic there
and then when we were in Sedona, my buddy Joey Mata, who's like a gnarly BMX rider, just amazing guy, he came up there. And he had some friends with him as well, and Matt was with them, and we were kind of like looking at each other like, I feel like I know you
from
you
somewhere."
know what I mean? And he was like, Josh from Sonic, you know what I mean? And so then at that point I wasn't even making music. You know
Of course
what I
you
mean?
knew the
I
name,
wa-
dude.
Yeah,
Wow,
I
it's
was-
professional.
Was Matt involved with music?
Yeah,
at that
Matt
time?
had been doing music since he was like 15 or 16, like
okay.
working in studios and doing stuff. So he was always involved on that heavy. So then when I did start making music, I remember I was camping up in Flagstaff, and he was up there again with some buddies because I think they were going to the college up there. And I was like, well, yeah, just come stop by our campsite. We got a campfire going. We're chilling. And I had my guitar, and I wrote a couple songs, and I played them for him. And he was like, dude, come to the studio and record. So I wrote like 2 or 3 songs, and he was like, come record. And it was like a really nice studio. Like
in Flag?
in Phoenix.
Oh, in Phoenix.
So yeah,
Okay,
so you came
I
down
came
here
down
to
to
okay.
Phoenix, yeah, and recorded down there, and it was cool. I mean, it was the first time being in a studio, and it was really nice, you know. Like,
Yeah. Legit studio.
Exactly.
all
really,
the
like-
bells and whistles.
Yeah, everything.
One of the big boards with all the sliders.
Yeah, it was all, it had everything. Like it had a huge booth with a drum kit in it, everything. Like it was cool. But yeah, and then like everybody's, you know, it's at somebody's house and everybody's smoking cigarettes and weed and doing their thing. So it was really nice. But yeah, Matt brought me to the first. He saw in me something at that point that I didn't see, because even when I go back and listen to like a song like that, I'm like, this is fucking terrible.
You
know
sure,
what I
right
mean?
when you started out,
Yeah,
you're like, "Man, I
exactly.
used to do that."
I'm like, why did you tell me to come to the studio, dude?
You saw something,
Yeah.
man.
But no, it's cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Was that back when you were Heavy Soul Tribe?
Yeah, that was like it before. It wasn't really like I didn't have a name for a minute, and then the Heavy Soul Tribe thing, I released a couple. I maybe released like 5 or 6 songs on Bandcamp.
Oh, wow.
I
I
know it.
remember
Yeah,
Bandcamp.
exactly, Bandcamp.
Some old school stuff.
And
I know what happened at band camp.
But no, yeah. So I dropped a couple songs under that. I did a couple music videos that just with some buddies here and there, and it was just like, I mean, the most rudimentary like beginnings of it, you know. And it was. But
I like the name, Heavy Soul Tribe.
And it was, yeah, and the soul was SOL, so it was like,
Oh, wow.
and I think it was from like a Black Keys song, like they had said like heavy soul in one of the songs, and I really liked.
Oh,
It
that's cool.
resonated with me. And then the Kaleidoscope Kid thing happened. I still remember because it was like I was in this cabin and it was snowing like hell outside. There was probably like a 1.5 or 2 feet of snow that had already piled up.
In
And I was,
Arizona, that's a lot. That's a
Arizona,
big
yeah.
blizzard.
Yeah, I was up in the canyon in Flagstaff, so it would get that really
Oh, yeah, yeah,
real
okay.
different environment right in there, and so it would come down crazy. And I was sitting outside. It's late at night, smoking a cigarette, and I was working on an album that I was interested in calling it Kaleidoscope Blues. And then I was writing a line in there, and I was referencing Billy the Kid. And prior to being a musician, I for 10 years or so, I was painting and drawing and writing, and I wanted to be an author.
Oh, wow.
Full bag of artistry right there.
Crazy.
Like, literally.
And so I was like, I first saw it as a title of a book that the title being Blue and the Kaleidoscope Kid. And I just loved the name of that.
Blue's
as
your
a
dog.
book. Blue
Blue-
was my dog
Blue's
at the
dog.
time,
Yeah,
yeah.
at the time.
And his name was Indigo, and so we just called him Blue for short, you know what I mean? But he was a beautiful half Australian Shepherd, half Rottweiler.
Oh man, I'm gonna
very
have to
unique
show you the
dog.
Aussie. We got an
Yes,
Aussie here.
please.
She's deaf and she is blind. She's a good girl. She's a sweet baby
Dude,
angel.
Aussies are the smartest dogs. They're the
She's really
best.
smart,
Yeah.
and she lives a peaceful life. Honestly, she
that's
doesn't hear
beautiful.
anyone's BS. It's nice.
That's
She
a good
just
point,
gets
yeah.
treats. She eats. She goes outside. She hangs out in here when I work.
That's hilarious.
I mean,
But yeah, so it was Blue and the Kaleidoscope Kid was the idea, and I was like, oh, that's what the name of the album needs to be. And then I remember walking in, and my roommate at the time, my buddy Taylor, he was on the computer, and I brought it up to him. I was like, the Kaleidoscope Kid, you know what I mean? And that was when it really set in. That was like 10 years ago. So.
Wow.
I feel like when we first started doing the podcast and we started like checking out people out here, I do feel like we followed you really early. I
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
feel like
think so.
we've been. I remember you've had a place in our lore and AZ's lore for a while now, for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like I remain so under the radar in ways, and like I'm such a studio rat. Like I lived really isolated in Sedona, and I lived really isolated when I was in Hawaii, and I lived in like the studio and for years, like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I like to be by myself, but in those environments, you meet so many great artists and stuff, and I'm happy. Like how people talk about you when you're not in other rooms is something I feel like to aspire to. Like,
Yes.
as far as that goes. So I'm happy to be a part of like any of the music in Arizona. Like it's cool because Arizona doesn't have like a sound more or less, and so
There's just a lot out here. And there's so
Exactly.
many separate pockets of different things, and
and I feel like it's like we're creating the foundation of that sound in
Yes.
a way.
at some point it'll come together. There'll be
Exactly.
something out here that's focused on local artists,
Exactly.
and it will attract the right crowd that's multi-genre,
Exactly.
like open to it. Yeah.
Would you say that moving Sedona, maybe did something different for you spiritually or physically, mentally that, kind of made you develop that much more? Or
Yeah, for sure. Like I think maybe like I think I got introduced to psychedelics when I was like 18, and then when I was like 19, 20, I was going through a breakup. I was kind of just living on people's couches, doing whatever, and at that point. Prior to that, I was doing a lot of substances, and I was like hiding it from everybody. And so now that I didn't have to hide it from anyone, I was just like hanging out with all the real rambunctious folk and all the artist people.
more free at that point?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spooling.
And then and then I met a girl, and she had never taken acid before, so we took acid with a group of friends. And then the next day we went up to Sedona because I went up to Sedona to start collecting spring water originally because the water up there, like you can just collect it, right out of the fucking ground, and that water that is coming out of the springs, it's all coming from an aquifer that's beneath Sedona.
I didn't know they had that. I know they
Me
got Oak
neither.
Creek and all that. I know it's like fed by all that, but it's
Exactly.
actually got springs.
Yeah, so it has
Oh.
all these natural springs, and so in order for that water to when it's coming out of the mouth of the spring, it takes like 800 to 1,000 years for it to reach that point from the aquifer. So it's been being filtered through all those rocks and minerals for 1,000 years when it's
Wow.
going into your bottle at that point, and so it's living water, like it's real water. You know what I mean? And so that's why we originally went up there. And so we had been up there and collected water and stuff, and we were like, we should go up there and take acid at this spring house. It was this little spring that we would go to. And we went up there and we took a tab, and it was like her first like real ego dissolving trip where she was like, I looked at her and I was like, tomorrow's going to be the most beautiful day of your life. I know you think you're dying right now,
But you're not. You're fine.
it's
Look.
gonna be
Everything's fine.
It's gonna be okay. So that, and then the next day we woke up, and I mean, she transformed tremendously. Like it was like she had awakened to something that she didn't know a part of herself.
Yeah.
And we both felt compelled to move there, and I think like a month later we scrounged up some money, and dude, I still can't believe it because it was like 2013 or so, 2012, and when you go through Oak Creek Canyon, there's a little the trout farm. It's this little
Yeah, the
farm,
fisher,
little
yeah,
farm right
the
there.
yeah,
or
And they have
the hatchery.
exactly,
That's
and they
what-
have
yeah.
a bunch of little single wide and double wide trailers down there that you can live in. We got a single wide trailer right there
Stop it.
for $500 a
Stop
month.
it.
Dude, I could put my hand
Right
on
off-
I could put my hand on the ceiling.
87A,
right off
right off.
the freeway, right off the
87A,
road.
if you know, you know.
And then literally the like I was able to, you know, we got kicked out of that place because it was like we were just I'd come home and my doors were like I was such like a hippie kind of like in that sense of like yeah, just come over, you know, people.
Yeah.
Until
Friendly and-
until you give me a reason to not respect you, you know what I mean? And
Well,
I'd come
communal.
home and there'd be fucking people taking mushrooms, laying in the neighbors' yards,
Yeah,
and
that's-
doing shit like that and stuff. And I'm like, get your ass inside.
It tends,
Yeah,
it
legit.
tends to draw attention.
Exactly,
Dude, the
yeah.
second it's so funny, like you like for a lot of kids, I think they live in like they go from high school to living with their parents to college where it's like that environment. And then but I swear to God, you get so old the second you have something on the line with like a lease or a house or something.
Yeah,
you're
you gotta act
you turn
different.
into a keep off my lawn real quick.
but-
dude. Like,
but-
hey, keep it down, dude.
But I wasn't super worried. Like I was like whatever, you know. And then we ended up getting kicked out of there. But it was funny because like we knew we were gonna get kicked out, and so we were like, well, I think like the last month or two we didn't even have electricity.
driving it like it was stolen.
We were,
at the end.
we had candles lit up in the house.
That's
and
amazing.
shit,
It's
you know
kind
what
of a
I mean?
vibe.
We had,
Yeah, I was
we
gonna
had,
say.
we had gas to cook. And then we ended up after that. My girlfriend at the time, my dog Blue, we lived in our truck out in the camp, like because there's dispersed camping. If you head from West Sedona to Cottonwood, there's like the 89B and the 525 C that go out to dispersed camping. So we would just go set up our tent. I would go work in the morning. She would go to work. We'd take the dog with us to work. I'd post him up outside. I was working up
That's
in the
nice.
canyon.
It's a nice life.
It was.
That's what human existence kind of used to look
I
like.
mean, it was really, really cool. And then plus, they, you know, we have Whole Foods nowadays, so it's like I just drive down and grab the hot food bar and go get my
Yes.
tent. And
Yeah.
then
Is that
what-
my tent's already
Is
set
there
up.
one, there one in
you know what I mean?
Sedona or?
Yeah,
or-
yeah.
oh,
yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. It used to be
Sounds
called.
like, of course,
yeah,
dude,
exactly.
Dude, they had
Yeah,
that
they-
one circle for a hot minute, dude. They were like, "We're finally ready."
Because it used to be. It used to be called.
We
New
got that
Fron-
Bezos money.
It used to be called New Frontiers, and then they went in and swept it out. But that was that. Oh yeah, they took it, and Bezos took that shit.
He was like, "Oh, we're getting that." He's like, "Did you know they only have the only turquoise or non
McDonald's?
orange McDonald's?"
Yeah.
There? Yeah.
But actually, the thing was when we moved out of that house, we didn't have Indigo yet. We actually were like a month or two living in my truck. And she was like, I want to get a dog. And I was like, if you get rid of half the shit that you have in this truck, you can get a dog. 'Cause
Yeah, we'd have the
we
room.
can't, we don't have room, you know what I mean?
Fair compromise.
And so when I got my dog, he was raised like the first 4 months just off the leash in the woods, like in the desert, just running around
wild boy.
doing shit.
That's
you
a way
know
to
what I
grow
mean?
up right
It was
there.
Semi-feral?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the smartest dog, man. He was so good. But yeah, and then yeah, Sedona was really. It gave me a space. Like, I mean, I didn't have a TV. I didn't have. I didn't.
I'm
have,
thinking about that. I'm
anything.
like, okay, no electricity for a little bit, no none of that. I'm like, your circadian rhythm must have just been
It was
Yeah.
spot on.
so on point, dude.
Yeah, and then like yeah, it was a really amazing type of freedom because we were just. I mean, it felt like we were exploring. We were, you know, there was so many things that nobody ever talked about when it came to like. You know the benefits of you know plant medicines, the benefits of like drinking spring water, like all these things, and so it was like a new frontier, and all of my friends were like psychonauts. So it was like, all right, they're all gonna come from Phoenix or Flagstaff, and we're gonna go to Josh's house, and we're gonna just
Absolutely go nuts
just
in
do-
No Creek
exactly,
Canyon.
exactly,
Yeah.
It's awesome.
And
I
so,
mean-
so it was really cool. And
Yeah.
then one of those times I picked up the guitar when I was on mushrooms, and I was just plucking around on it, and I had played it a little bit when I was a kid. And that was when I fell back in love with it again, though, because I was like, I was sitting there playing it, and it was just this, I mean, beautiful experience with it. And the next day I woke up and was like, all right, like, let me learn a song. And I woke up and I learned Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd was the first full song. That I learned to, like, sing and play on the guitar, you know. And then that's when I was 21, so.
Okay.
And I'm 31 now, so it's been 10 years of making music.
So I was
now.
gonna say, so that's when it kind of started for you.
Exactly.
I want to get to the music, but really quick, some of us on this show may have dabbled in psychedelics themselves in the past. I'm just curious to know for someone who's, used them and experimented with them, what's the deepest you've ever gone in that realm? Can you talk to me about some of like some of the things you might have experienced or seen? I'm just kind of curious to always get those
Yeah,
perspectives.
yeah. I've had I mean, one of my preferred methods is I like to fast prior to, and then I like to implement a lot of vitamin C prior to it because the vitamin C, when combined with mushrooms, allows you to, and that's any mushroom, allows you to absorb the nutritional benefits that the mushroom possess 8 to 10 times easier than you would be able to
Just
otherwise.
across the board
Across the
Wow.
board. So
on fungi.
shiitake mushrooms
Okay,
are high
wow.
in certain vitamins. If you can, and that's why you get the orange juice thing with people tripping. It actually allows you to absorb it better.
Oh, no
There's a synergy.
way.
There's a
That's crazy.
synergistic
Okay,
thing
yeah.
between vitamin C and fungi.
Whoa.
So you doing that, and then I really like to do like a hot chocolate or a tea, and so I'll brew it down
Okay.
into I'll grind it down, put it into that, and it hits very quickly
Okay.
because you
In
don't have
liquid form.
because you don't have to digest it. It just almost immediately starts to enter the bloodstream. There's also I notice when I go into it that initial start of the trip, I can be very in my head,
Okay.
and so
Is that a good thing?
well, I mean, it's not a good or a bad thing,
Okay.
but what I have realized that is if I do a somatic practice, something that gets me in my body, whether it's breath work, going swimming, exercising in particular, so like doing even stretching, doing yoga and things like
Yeah.
that, something that puts you into your awareness of your body rather than to the awareness of your stream of consciousness that's
Okay.
going by. Uh, so like I mean, this one stands out to me right now is I remember taking like probably like 3 grams in hot chocolate,
Okay.
and it's like
Hefty dose.
maybe like an hour before sun is setting, and I drink it, and I go on I think I did like a little over 2 mile run or something like
A
that,
run.
Some
and
light
and I'm and,
in Sedona.
no, I'm in Phoenix.
Oh, in Phoenix.
this is
This is
okay,
in
okay,
Phoenix.
okay.
This was
Okay.
like 2021. Like
Oh,
20,
this is
this
a
was
few
like
years ago,
2021.
dude.
Yeah. This is like 2021. This was a fun one. As I got older, the trips became more intentional and more like
Right.
I could go deeper into
had
it
a
with
goal
more
for it,
trust.
kinda.
Exactly. Yeah. But so I go out there and I'm running, and I'm sweating, and I'm just starting to feel all this energy. I come back, I sit down, and I think I like start smoking a joint or a cigarette or something, and I'm watching the sun go down, and uh, all of the foliage, all of the trees, everything has this iridescent rainbows. Not like a rainbow, but like you
Almost
look
like a
Like a
reflection.
mother of
Exactly.
pearl, kind of a
Yeah.
shiny.
ribboning off of it, and they're all. It was as if everything. And I'm like 30 minutes into this trip.
Yeah.
It's like everything is sentient, and it's aware that the sun is setting, and it's all like it was like they were cheering for
Dude.
this fact that the sun
The sun was set like in its
and that it was gonna rise again tomorrow, and it was like. And all the birds were singing to it, and
Dude,
everything was directed towards it. And it was like, oh my God, like we're so out of tune that there's this celebration that occurs every night. And they were like, yeah, you know what I mean?
Dude, that
And-
is-
Okay,
that is
so
fucking
this is
awesome,
some
dude.
I to kind of
love
close to that you're actually that is a legit thing, dude. I think that kind of blew my mind. You know, like you wake up in the morning, you hear the birds chirping in the trees and stuff. They studied so like like leaves. The green part gets the sun and all that, but there's little pores basically, and they breathe
Yeah.
through them. And they have to open up for them, and they studied it. Bird chirping opens
the
those
flowers,
up.
yep, and then certain things.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, literally.
So
that's
it
why,
helps.
yeah.
It is literally the alarm clock
Exactly.
for the whole forest.
I didn't
It-
know
it's-
about
It
that.
opens those up.
it-
Spiracles, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. The little it'll open up the flowers, do
Yeah.
things like that. That's why like in greenhouses and gardens they'll play like
They studied that.
certain things like that. But
Whoa.
yeah. So I'm watching that, and then I go and I start doing yoga, and I'm doing exercises. I'm doing push-ups, doing this, doing that.
After you just saw this most beautiful freaking.
And I
Jesus,
kind of
dude,
adjust.
I look at my fantasy team when I'm bored. Yeah, what am I doing, dude?
It was such a trippy one because I'm covered in sweat, and this was like really the first time like I had fully just like like, oh, I need to move my body like
Okay.
that, and I had all that energy, like that kid energy where you're like, oh, I can go, and I'm pouring sweat, and my eyes are closed at this point, and I'm laying on my back, I think, just kind of sitting there, and all of a sudden I start to hear like a dump truck and fire hydrants and all this stuff, and it starts to like this gloominess of like the reality
world
of
popping
the
in,
duality
yeah.
of
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
And I felt this deep sadness come over me,
Whoa.
and I was like, why am I not crying? Because I'm normally am pretty good about crying. Like I feel like I can cry.
You're
if I
that
need
in tune
to,
with
you
your
know what I mean?
emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I not crying? Immediately, as if an answer given to me, it was like, because your body is crying, and that's what the sweat was coming out of me. And and as soon as that happened, I sunk into the sort of ego death part where it starts to transcend out of it, and I was like sunken into. It felt as though I sunk into the ground, almost like the movie Train Spotting when he falls
Yes, I
into
was
the
gonna
carpet.
say, yeah.
And immediately, and this has happened to me on multiple occasions, but in this kind of similar story archetype, that I then start to see myself being consumed by these incredible neon pastel green and pink praying mantises, and these pearl white maggots are eating me alive, like
Oh,
essentially.
What, dude?
And but it's not. It's like they're eating my identity of who I think I am away.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
okay,
And
yeah.
I've been through it before, so I'm not super surprised.
I was gonna say,
by
so you're
it.
not like panicking?
No, not
or-
at all.
Okay,
Not
okay.
at all. But I go through this sort of experience and then when I come out of it, I was laying on my yoga mat and I'm like maybe like 15 feet above it. Like I think I was writhing around or something. Like and I didn't
Oh,
even.
so okay, so you
I had
moved.
moved unconsciously, and I'm
Dang,
like.
you were doing the snake, the worm,
Exactly.
all
Yeah,
the way
I
up.
was doing something, and I'm
Someone's
living.
watching
I was
this.
living in a little apartment complex with like 5 houses and a pool in the center, but they were all great musicians and homies and
Yeah.
trippy, great deadheads and
nice.
stuff.
Okay, so
so
there
like,
was, like-
I got up and I was like, I hope I didn't do anything weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah. Meanwhile, they were like, whatever he's on, go break into his
Yeah,
apartment
yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
But then at one point in that experience, it was interesting because like when I started to it's like you get the identity is completely disintegrated, and then as it starts to form itself back, it was trippy because it felt really in this experience as though I was in the womb of my actual mother, and that I could feel her giving me the nutrients from her own body and muscle to make me, and then I had this connection to my mother,
Dude.
and when I come out of it, it was like a light, and then being born, and I wake up and out of this experience, this trance.
You start crying.
I'm sobbing, right? Snot, and I'm covered in sweat. And I'm at this point, I've rolled over onto the gravel now. I'm just laying on the gravel, and
Nice.
I
Please tell me it's not summer.
it was,
Oh,
but it was
it's
at this
night?
point. It's night.
Okay,
At this
thank
point,
God.
Okay, so it's cooled off.
It's
It's
not
only
yeah,
110
exactly.
degrees. It's just not 160 with the heat absorption.
Exactly. And the first thought is I'm sobbing, right? And I felt like I was crying before I became aware again. And I look down and I just start laughing while I'm crying because I'm like, I'm covered in the embryonic
Yeah,
fluid
yeah, like the
of the
mucus.
snot and the
I'm
sweat and the
picturing
tears.
Ace Ventura coming out of the rhino's ass.
But yeah,
Oh, shit.
So experiences like that personally, and then obviously there's like your gnarly ones where you're like a young kid and you're doing stuff and this, that, and the other. But those are like the ones that where it's like that was a really incredible, beautiful, profound experience. You know what I mean?
I'm glad I asked that question, man, because
I'm glad you did
I know
too.
people sometimes go down journeys and pathways and they experience things and see things, and I mean it's incredible.
Yeah,
what you-
that was a fun one.
There's no light without darkness. Right?
Exactly. I've been on both, man. I've seen it. I've held space for
Sometimes
both
you
too.
gotta face it. I feel like Happy Gilmore in the fucking when he's taking the fucking baseballs to
Oh,
the
yeah,
face, getting
yeah.
ready for hockey
Yeah,
season.
just-
Sometimes you gotta take
you
those
gotta
ones
take
on the
those
face
shots.
Exactly.
to
yeah.
get out there.
You learn a lot. Anytime I'd be having a really negative experience, I'd always like almost disassociate, and I'd be like,
I
"What-"
control this.
I would. Well, I'd be like, "What would I do if my friend was having this experience?" And then I would do that for myself, and then it helped me. Anytime somebody would be having a really bad trip around me, I was like, "I know exactly what to do because I've been there. You need to get into some breath work right now, or you need to stretch, or
Some
you need
Wim
to do
Hof
this, or you
shit.
need to do something like
Yeah.
that."
Some
you know what I mean?
Iceman type shit.
I remember one time I was with a bunch of homies and they just kept the whole night. They were like, "Trip, Dad," because I was like the only one. I was like, I've been taking mushrooms.
Fucking shaman.
Hey,
dude.
I
You're a
have been,
shaman, dude.
I have been taking mushrooms all day, and they got to Sedona that night, and they were like, "Oh, like let's all take an eighth." I was like, "Fuck you." It's like,
Yeah.
I'll
Like,
hang out.
I've
bro.
been there,
and then I was
dude.
just giving.
I'm
them
in the penthouse
hanging
suite
out.
right now.
Yeah.
You guys can take the
I was
elevator.
like, bro, I'm chilling.
You'll be fine once you get up here. Yeah.
Man, there's so much to talk about with you, man, because not only have you done a lot, but you've been through a lot. You did, I think from what I understand, you had an autoimmune disease that was seemed like pretty traumatic from what I read, and I mean, I can imagine what going through something like that would be like. Um, and I don't want to beat a dead horse if you talked about it a lot, but going through an experience like that and then being able to create, and I feel like expand to who you are now.
Yeah.
At that time, man, what were, some of the thoughts, emotions that you were kind of feeling at that time? Because I'm sure, like, I mean, I don't know if death had creeped up in your mind, but can you kind of just talk to us about like what that was like and how you came out of it?
Yeah, the interesting thing was that like right before that, it was probably like 6 months before the first time I was hospitalized for it, is when I started playing music. And so when I was in the hospital, and when I finally got out, I couldn't. What it had done essentially was it had given me a third-degree burn throughout the entire mucous membrane of my body.
Whoa.
That is what the doctors told me. So when I got checked in the
Oh
hospital,
my
I
God.
weighed 93 pounds, and the mucous membrane runs
Your whole
through your
body was on fire.
mouth, eyes, nose. So like if you get a burning, you get water on it, it stings.
Yeah.
Drinking water was almost unbearable, and eating food was like not an option. So
Jeez.
I was in Sedona for like a week, just laying there on the ground, withering away. And my girlfriend at the time was like, "You have to go to the fucking hospital, dude." And so I was like, she's like, "We're driving down to Phoenix." I was like, "I'm driving." I was like, I'm just driving.
You did not
whatever.
drive.
Yeah, I drive.
Bro, what? 93
And,
pounds, dude.
and I was
That's
smoking cigarettes. I was smoking weed. Like, you know what I mean?
Soldier,
Like,
bro.
And I was just.
That's gangster.
I was gonna say, we're gonna talk about this later because this is important, but I can't believe you're not a country singer, dude. So keep it going. But
Yeah.
from your everything,
that's-
and it's crazy you're not a country singer.
That's
but
hilarious. No, so then I drive down to Phoenix, and like I get to my parents' house, and because I'm on their health insurance. I'm 21, and I'm like,
those were the days.
yeah, I'm like, maybe I should go to the doctor. They're like, yeah, you look. And at this point, it had already done so much damage to the inside of my body. Like I'd wake up and like not to be graphic, but like if you have like pink eye, you get all crusted over.
Yes.
Yeah, your eyes are glued shut.
I'd
You
wake
can't
up
open them.
and it'd be crusted over with blood. And I'd wake up and my ear would be stuck to the pillow with blood. And
Whoa.
literally every part of me was going through it.
I never go to
and
the
then-
doctor. I would be there immediately.
And then
Shoot.
it started to come on the top of my skin. So I looked like I was a heroin addict. And so when I got checked in, they were kind of like, this kid, he weighs, looks like he's got all these
they
pop
were
marks
adding
all
up
over him, you know what I mean?
yeah.
they were like,
Uh,
how much oxy are you gonna ask
Exactly.
for?
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, I was like, all I was doing was psychedelics, smoking weed. I wasn't doing anything anymore. So
California sober.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, yeah. I really didn't. I didn't want any pain medicine, anything. I was in Sedona trying to be healthy and do my shit at that point. And so, but yeah, getting out of the hospital, because of the damage that had been done, I still had a long recovery. It took about like 5-6 weeks before. I could eat. Like the one thing that was the most telling was like anything with tomato because the acidity in it.
Yeah.
So if there was still any sort of irritations at all, it would really show. So like after a full 6 weeks, that would stop. But it was just tremendous.
So in the smallest possible way in the world, like not even a percentage of what you went through, but like I can picture that if you've ever like thrown up in the middle of the night and not like rinsed your mouth or anything and your throat gets
Yeah.
burned with the stomach acid.
yeah.
The second you said that, that's what I thought of. And I'm picturing that throughout my entire body.
yeah.
And a week you laid there? What?
Yeah.
Dude.
I just was.
There's soldiers that would break before.
That's what I'm
Dude,
saying,
there's
dude.
Delta
That's
Force guys
gangster,
that
bro.
were
No,
like,
it was trippy because when I got out of the hospital, I still had. I think by that point I would get these squeezable baby food bags, and I would just squeeze them into my mouth to try and get some food down my body, and it would hurt so bad. And
So you couldn't consume anything.
no, and dude, there was at one point, and this was after 2 weeks of pretty much not eating anything. I was skin and bones, and I wasn't sleeping at all, because anytime I would fall asleep. Because anytime I fall asleep, since my all the way out to the edge of my lips was a third-degree burn. When I fall asleep, my mouth would be closed together. So then when I wake up after the first night, I
all
woke up
bloody
after
and-
it would be stuck together, and I'd have to peel
I've
it
had
apart
that with
like
my
some
eyes.
poltergeist shit.
I've had that with my eyes. I can't
Whoa.
imagine that with blood and oh my god.
And so
that's-
I had my mom. I was like, go to the dentist and get one of those little blocks that you get for cavities, and I'd put that in my mouth when I slept, and I just rub Vaseline on my lips so it wouldn't stick
Bro, just
together
go to
and
the
heal
doctor.
together. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. And and so.
oh my god.
So yeah, when I went to the doctor, they gave me a bunch of antibiotics, and that's what kicked it out of it. You know what I mean? But they told me you're only going to be able to receive a second round of antibiotics after that, and after that, we're going to have to put you on something that will suppress your immune system, something like methotrexate or something, because your immune system is just attacking itself.
It's crazy.
And then that was when I was going through that process, and I couldn't really talk or anything like that. I would just write and play guitar every day, and I wasn't sleeping.
Going through that.
And I was like, please, God, just let me fucking be okay, and I'll write music every day. I'll sing every day. And and I was like, at that point, I felt like my what I was going through wasn't an autoimmune condition. I felt like I was in a place where I was lying to every person around me about what I was actually feeling, and that the universe, God, source, had taken away my ability to speak in order to like go through that experience and learn from that. And then when I'd be in tremendous pain, and I'd sit down in front of a piano and I'd start playing some chords, and I'm not kidding, it was like it would all fall down, and I would break down in tears while I'm crying, while I'm playing, because I'm like, this is a medicine. Like, this is literally a
It's
medicine.
like the first relief you felt in weeks.
Exactly. And so that was where the bonding period, where it went from being a hobby to me understanding
Something
the
you
power
need.
of music.
Wow. Yeah.
Exactly. So when I got out of it, I was playing all the time, you know what I mean? But there was points during that, I remember multiple times where I'd be like up late at night, not able to sleep. And so I just like put on TV, like watching Adult Swim or something, and a Papa John's commercial would come on. And I would be so deprived of food
Yeah.
that I would actually start hallucinating as if I was eating the whole thing. I would feel the warmth of the pizza, taste the cheese, the consistency, and I mean like a full-on sensory hallucinations.
Whoa.
My body was coping with it, and it was insane. I mean, it was
Dude.
happening like it was so intense. And I remember my first thought being like thinking about like people who like in the Holocaust or things of that nature, where I was like, dude, the human mind is so insane.
Powerful.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was a
absolutely.
full-on sensory hallucination, yeah.
Man.
Wow.
But yeah, that was where the music really, that even more than Sedona. Sedona was a good place for me to
Yeah,
come back
but that
after that and
experience.
continue to grow it. But that experience was really where the bond between the music happened.
And would you say, and not to say you've actually experienced like a near death actual experience, but I mean, did that awaken like
Yeah.
the music spirit that much more for you? Would you say?
Yeah, and like in psychedelics, I had like these ego death experiences where you're like, oh, I died, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
or something like that. Like, no, I'm dead. I'm not in my body anymore. I'm gone. And so when this happened, like the way I always said it, and like I said, I wanted to be a writer and a poet, and I'm a musician.
You live
so
in a cabin in
I-
Sedona
I-
or a trailer in Sedona. I mean, come on.
I was
It's-
always writing things, you know what I mean, and it really felt like it was like, I don't know, it just felt like significant at that point that like it had been taken away,
Yeah.
and then the music and everything. So, and the what I was diagnosed with was called writer's syndrome. It's also known as reactive arthritis. But I was
Okay.
like writing, you know, there was just all these
Oh.
strange
Whoa, wait,
synchronicities.
Yeah,
what?
that's
Yeah.
a
But
crazy
it's
flip
spelled
right there.
REITERS.
Oh, stop.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Writer's syndrome.
That's crazy.
Well, so
That's crazy.
I guess maybe tapping into music now. You have a bar or maybe a line in War off is that the Kaleidoscope Kid album?
I don't know what that's on All Dogs Go to Heaven, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it
yeah.
is on Auto
Sure,
Heaven. That's correct.
yeah.
But you have a bar in there where you're like, I'm trying to get even with God, even though we've only met twice, or something like that. And again, not to get too nerdy with it, but we like to break down lyrics. And in that moment, knowing what you had gone through, I started to wonder. I was like, is that when he was talking about going through maybe this experience here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of them. You know what I mean? I think that will always be one of those. The way I would describe it is like I didn't have a near-death experience in the same way that you would in reality or in a psychedelic or in a DMT. It was like I was in the hospital bed with death, and it was like I was hanging out with death for like 4 or 5 days in the hospital, and it was like we're gonna talk and we're gonna get to meet, and it's the first time that I'm really, as a young naive kid, being introduced to the idea of my mortality and being confronted by it, and I thought for years, I still think that I've fully integrated what happened and what that changed, because I went from one direction in life to a complete other after that,
Yeah.
because it showed me essentially like what I felt in that moment was that all that mattered was like how you know, you're met with all the shit.
I
That
feel like it would strip you down to the core of what's important in life.
Exactly.
Like when you're faced with that, it's like death inches closer to you. You're a kid and you're pet dies,
Yes.
and then maybe grandma dies, maybe, and plenty of people have more traumatic
Yeah.
experiences younger. But like you're saying, like as still as a very young man, like you're faced with it yourself. But yeah,
Yeah, no, I literally right like after that, I realized that the only thing that mattered was like I knew I was gonna have to have that conversation one day with death again, and I wanted to be a different person because when I got there that time, I was regretful, scared, angry. I was upset with myself about all these things, and it was like, okay, to me, hell is when I die and I look back at my life and it's filled with all this regret and
Yep,
anger,
yep.
and heaven is when I can die being like. I fucking did that shit. You know what I mean? Like as simple as that. It's like that was what heaven and hell was to me because it was like it is hell if you are gonna die and you don't know if you're gonna make it.
Yeah.
And you already go, I wish I would have done
Yeah,
that.
you're
I
sitting there like,
wish I
damn,
would have
why
told
didn't
this
I-"
person that. It's heavy. You know what I mean?
Oof.
And it's still like I said, it's still not something that like I carry with me every day. Like I forget and I push away, but it's a huge part of me, like for sure.
all right, man. So getting into the music, friends of the pod, we fuck with them heavy. We're big fans. We love this track. We actually got a decent amount to talk about in this one, but I think we want to open up with Vibes with Odd Squad Family. Seems like a fitting place to start.
Yeah.
Shady Dell.
Yeah.
Okay, Jared. But
He knew it.
So I hadn't seen the video because we usually watch different shit, right?
Uh-huh.
Before we prepare for these. And 30 minutes before you walked in, he's like, yo, you need to watch this one. Within 30 seconds, I go, they did that at the Shady Dell.
Yeah.
I've stayed there 3 times.
Yeah.
I take my fam there. I love that place.
Yeah.
It's one of my Bisbee is one of my favorite cities.
That's awesome.
That's one of my favorite places. How the hell did you get? Did you talk to the owners to film that like that or?
Yeah, you know, it was like I feel like our lives are always so strange. And I'm with the guys, and we get to the trailer park, and we have one trailer booked, but
The sickest trailer, by the way. You got the tiki.
Captain's
I think we had the
with
Listen,
Yeah,
I
dude,
know,
you had
I
the
know the
freaking
buses. I've
captain's
stayed
wheel?
in 3 of them. That is the king. That's the crown jewel of the fucking
So
park right
we
there.
had
dude.
one
Dom
of
Shady
them.
Dell.
We
That's
had
the
one of them
presidential
booked.
suite, dude.
The
And-
mayor
but
of Shady
we were
Dell.
the only guests there aside from one person. I don't even think it was a guest. I think it was like somebody
Every
who
time
worked
I've
on
been
the
there, it's been
property.
booked.
Yeah.
So y'all were there with one. Oh, dude.
Dude, there was literally they were like
Because
just
y'all, I saw the gazebo. I was like, they're out in the open doing that shit at the gazebo?
no, we literally get there, and the owners of the place, shout out to whoever the fuck
They're a
are,
married couple.
They were so cool.
Yes.
I think they knew them, the squad first off, and then
Of course.
they knew what we
Yeah.
were doing, and they
They're
go
like, "That's
they,
my
they were
slime,
like
dude."
they were like nobody's here except for in the back house behind the boat, so you can go into any of them and do whatever you want. And I said, can we smoke weed? Yeah, do whatever.
Stop it.
Literally,
Okay, well,
we're in this
go
one,
in to
we-
do it. Go in and
Complete
film.
green light.
And then yes, and then
What?
we're leaving, and we have so much weed. I mean, we had ounces, and we were just
Y'all
smoking
were blowing
all day.
trees
Shout
in
out to
that one.
Bisbee.
And so we
dude.
probably we probably had like an ounce of weed left, maybe. And we're coming back, and it's kind of by the border. You're gonna have to
There's a
pass Border
cemetery
Patrol.
right behind
can't
it.
have that,
There's-
dude.
Yeah.
So we're like, nah, let's just play it safe. We got a last drive home. It's been a long day. Let's not take any risks. We just give them all the weed.
Wow,
So we
cooler
gave
heads
the owners
prevailed.
of
What a
that,
blessing.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when we were leaving, we had to go through the Border Patrol stop, but they didn't say shit to us. They see Nubs, and sometimes like it's almost like they don't know if he's like military or something like that because they don't know how it happened. So like sometimes you just get like a head nod from people because they're like,
Yo,
"Thank you for your service." You know what I mean?
what a
Kind of thing.
pass,
You know what I mean?
dude.
Exactly.
That's a nice
You roll
grade.
out the window.
Yeah.
You're like, "What's going?" Oh,
It's
hi.
not explicit.
I got an albino dude and a dude with no arms. I'm like, I'm just going home.
Stop
Yo,
this.
that is crazy, dude.
The guy is not expecting that at 2 a.m. Like, you know what I mean?
No,
Like,
and then
he's
in
like,
worst
"What the
case
fuck,
scenario, he
dude?"
pulls you out of the car and Snowman's and Nubs start rapping, like just freestyling. It's game over, dude. He's gonna think he's either tripping or he's gonna be like,
he's gonna be very confused.
he's
The
like, I'm not
situation's
getting in the way of this.
Yeah.
dude. That's-
So, what were you gonna say about the track itself, Dre? You had some.
Dude,
you
I
had
was just
some
gonna
good
say, so
shit.
I actually hadn't heard that until we started like peeping some of your music. I had not heard that one from everyone. I just want to say, dude, the hook on that, amazing.
Thank you.
Killed that.
Yeah.
I feel like and you brought out some of the best in the crew, dude. That's some of their best work. That's one of my favorite A Factor verses that
One
I've
of
ever
my-
heard.
I think
in
that's one of
particular.
Snowman's best
Snowman,
verses.
dude, the cinematography on that, was that Matt?
Mac.
Mac? Oh,
Yeah,
Mac?
Young
Okay.
Mac, yeah,
Oh, Young Mac.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
it was beautiful. There was a moment where I think someone's on the captain's seat or captain's wheel or something in one of them, and it like slow panned over to Snowman. Dom, like we wound it back like 3 times.
We're that we like watch. It's like we're watching game from like, yo, did you see how the
Yeah.
camera panned? Like we go through all that shit.
Yeah, we
with it.
were we were so present. Like it was 2020 and the world was shut down. You know what I mean? And like I was living at the studio. Like I was literally sleeping on the floor there, and so it was like eating, breathing, and sleeping. Like I mean, to the most delusional capacity you could imagine. Like it was just like art. You
Yeah,
know
it was
what I mean?
100%
Yeah, exactly.
just that
Like
creative
we were just
space and
living,
sleep.
yeah, just doing whatever we wanted. And so when we got out there and did that one, that song was probably like, yeah, that was like probably like a year into Kaleidoscope Kids. So like I wrote it super early. Like I
Okay.
wrote that 8 or 9 years ago.
Wow.
And then I took it, dropped it as an original. Then I took it down because when I signed with the record label with Suburban Noise Records out in LA, I was out there and they wanted to re-release a handful of my old music.
That was Azul, right?
No,
You
no,
didn't.
no.
Oh,
This
that
is,
was a different.
so
That
it's
was another.
the record is Nothing for Free, and then the Kaleidoscope Kid, the self-titled
Oh,
one with the
wow,
artist.
okay,
So the Kaleidoscope Kid album originally was called Blue and the Kaleidoscope Kid, and it was a completely different album.
Whoa.
And
No
now
way,
it's
wow.
out. It came out with Suburban Noise Records with Regime Music Group in 2022 as a new album, even though it wasn't a new album. And so that was.
Oh, for some, I thought that was Azul for some reason that had happened with. Okay, so
No, so
okay.
when that happened, Azul was already done, and I
Yeah.
had another album, Paper Tigers, that was already done, and so
Wait, you had Paper Tigers done
already
then
done,
too?
yeah, already
Because you
done.
dropped
I
it.
just
You dropped it in
Okay, yeah,
August.
I was-
Yeah,
that was
August of
one of the-
21.
that was one of
you
the-
dropped Azul for
I
a little
dropped
bit and then
Azul
pulled
for
it
like
back.
yeah, because then I signed
'Cause-
with the record deal at that point.
What just for anyone that's trying to like understand the music business, what's the motivation behind
question.
pulling it back? Is it so that they can that's not something that's out there already, so that you could pull it back and that's their product? Or
No, so for me, it was like I had never. I was just an artist, you know, doing my thing. I was just making stuff. I didn't have any understanding of the music
you were
business
like, oh,
stuff,
they're
right?
interested in me. I'm gonna pull this back.
No, not even. At their suggestion, what they want to do is like, you have a lot, you know, Hold Up at that point had 3 million, 4 million views.
I want to talk
listens.
about
Four,
Hold Up, 'cause
four and a
that-
half right now. on
Yeah, we
Spotify,
just
dude.
It was
checked it.
already up there. And that was just independently. You know what I mean? We just put that out and that happened. You know what I mean? But so that was sitting there. And then they wanted to take Hold Up. They wanted to take Watermelon Kisses. They wanted to take
Good song.
what Vibes is. It's called It's All Love. That was the original.
You got some song
that-
changes that have gone on. I noticed that.
And so when they were like, a lot of people know you, but nobody knows you, essentially, realistically. And so they wanted to present me as a new artist to their fan base, as if that was that.
Makes
so
sense.
I
Little
took
rebrand.
I took down at that point, honestly, 90% of that shit I wanted to take down. I would have took down more if I could, but I had stuff that I was like, I need to keep this up because it's intertwined with other different people that I'm like, well, just
You
like,
release it with
yeah,
someone.
I don't
You
want to
got to
take
take
that
some
shit. Yeah,
feature on it or
exactly,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, you can't do that.
And so that was kind of, and like I said, I was in my head, I was like, well, I've never done this before. These guys have done all of like Sublime's music. They've done all of
Big
like
names.
exactly
I hear
like
Sublime
Cottonmouth
in you,
Kings, like
too.
all these dudes. And so it's like
Cottonmouth Kings.
they did like you know, they own SRH, one of the huge clothing company. They did the exit through the gift shop Banksy interview. They did
Wow.
all these incredible
Wow.
things. The owner, his name's Kevin Singer.
I knew none
also
of
did-
this. That's crazy.
Yeah, and so it felt like a natural step to go work with them, and it was an incredible
Those
opportunity.
are
You
legends,
know what I
dude.
mean?
Legends.
Yes,
And across the creative spectrum too,
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is
exactly, yeah.
fitting for you.
yeah. So it felt Sublime was definitely a huge influence. So like it just felt like a natural progression on that. So then so I took Azul down. Paper Tigers wasn't out yet, but it was already done. But then when I was with the record label, I dropped the Kaleidoscope Kid
Yep.
after I'd taken it down, Blue and the Kaleidoscope Kid with the new songs. Because the artwork from that Mossy Giant, this dude out in Amsterdam, he did like the Cannabis Museum out there and did all these incredible places and does all this
He did that for
amazing
you?
work. He did that for me. And it was crazy because I reached out to him and I was like, yo, bro, how much would it cost for you to do an album cover for me? And he was like, sends me a invoice. The dude's a professional, you know what I mean? Sends me an
Yeah.
invoice for like $1,500 or something like that. And then I was like, bro, I was like, honestly, I was like, sorry for wasting your time. One day I'm gonna come get one from you, but thank you so much for just responding to me. And he was like, dude, I've been listening to your music nonstop. He's like, I'll do it for $200.
Stop it, dude.
What?
See, but that's
Dude.
that's you with your ego dying. You didn't like ghost them. You
No,
weren't
yeah,
embarrassed.
yeah.
You were just like, hey, I'm not at that level.
Yeah.
I will get one. I will
Exactly,
come
yeah.
back
I'm
to you.
gonna come
That's
back
the
and
way to
I
handle
wanna
it.
work with you.
That's
you
the
know,
way to handle it.
and
And look what comes to you.
Dude, he went all out with that thing. So I was like, all right, if I'm gonna come back with a label behind me, with some money behind me, with some people behind me, with some names behind me, like that's a great artwork to use for it. If I'm gonna take that album down anyways, let's reuse that artwork so I can come out and we'll just cut Blue off of that. And that point, uh, Indigo, when my girlfriend and I separated, like that was her dog more or less. Like when we got the dog when we were living in our van, I was like, we can get a dog, but it's your dog. You know what I mean?
Okay,
I did not want a dog.
again, you lost the dog, so
Exactly.
country singer, how that
Exactly.
didn't happen,
It's
I
adding
don't.
up, dude. It's
How,
adding up.
really is.
Listen, dude, Morgan Wallen's
Put a point on the
phone's
board.
open, dude. Morgan Wallen's phone's open. Post Malone's in the game. It's time for the Kaleidoscope Kid to get in
Dude,
there.
it's
That's
funny because
crazy.
I Paper Tigers just came out, and that like album is I wrote back in 2020 and 2021. And when I went back and I was like, all right, we're gonna re-release this album now. I was like listening to it and I was like, I could do this album so much better. But I'm very adamant about capturing like a photograph of the moment in particular. It's like that's who I was and all those imperfections and all that. I couldn't make that album again. So I never touch anything pretty much once it's done. Once it's done, like I'll like
It's a finished product.
dude, if I start a song and I'm not gonna stop until I could be 3 days. I'm doing nothing else but obsessively listening to it on loops and drawing and painting and listening.
You listen to it in the car. You listen to it in
exactly.
Yeah.
I'll take breaks here and there, you know what I mean. But it's like I'm fully committed to that stuff. So, so when I was listening to the Paper Tigers album that we just dropped, it was like I was like, well, I don't want to redo it, but I've grown a lot with my, playing music, playing guitar, and so I was like, I'll just record a full acoustic album of it. So I recorded in like 12 hours. It's like 13 songs, full acoustic out version of it.
I'll just say real quick, not to cut you off. Allison was one of my favorite tracks.
Thank you so much. And Factor, like I remember writing that hook. I had like the melody in there, and I was like, "Oh, Allison," and then he came in with the Wonderland stuff and helped write with the hook on that and sketched it out, and then we did the layers on it. So on the vocals on the hook, Factor's got some layers in there, and then the very last verse. The hook changes up a little bit. It goes from your room's a mess to our room's a mess, and that last full part of the hook that's repeated with just the acoustic guitar is just Factor singing over that part right there.
Okay. The video was dope too.
So that's the thing for you guys, because he does that. I think he does that on one of the interludes on your album.
Yeah.
You got a song together. Hopefully we're not outing him for doing this, but he played us a little unreleased something you guys worked on. I just want to say, I hope this means something, dude. You mentioned what people say about you when you're not around. He said that this might be the most. I think he said like this might be the best song or like greatest musical thing I've been a part of, dude. Like he felt something with that song, dude. You guys got a connection for sure.
I'm so stoked to be around those guys all the time. Like
The whole
how
cruise,
fucking
the whole
dope,
crew's
dude.
amazing.
Like,
Exactly, yeah.
There's some.
It's
They're
awesome.
like they're just. It's crazy
Incredible.
because we see our view of the scene out here. Call it what you want, and like those guys are on a whole different level touring. Their Facebook numbers, their numbers just in
YouTube
total are
numbers are
crazy. I mean,
crazy.
we're talking 9 figures, dude. Like.
No, they're some of the most genuine people. Like, I mean, we just laugh constantly. We have the best conversations. We're all trying to build each other up. It's very much like we look forward to those days when we're at the studio. That's our time. Like, especially them. They have families. They have other things. Like, I'm in the studio 24/7. So they come in and I'm like, I haven't seen anybody in 3 days. So
Yes,
I'm really
you're like-
excited
you're
to talk and show this. And then
You're
they're
like
really
the Matthew
excited to see
McConaughey
me.
vibe
You know what I
living at the
mean?
studio. Like, all right, the boys are here. What are we doing?
I'm like, there's weed and beer. Let's go.
Yeah.
These are like the
dude.
new
You know what I
recruits
mean?
coming into like Robert Duvall in Vietnam War. Yeah.
But it's cool there. I love that place because then like the squad will come in and then Kyrie comes in and works from fucking 8 p.m. to 6 in the morning and like so it's just there's always people in.
And then he's
and out
hosting
there.
somewhere
Exactly,
probably
yeah.
afterwards too.
And
Man,
then him and I are up just talking and smoking blunts all night, talking about far out shit.
And that's why I would say, speaking of Kyrie, Odd Squad, you, man, I mean, like, just looking at all you guys, we've met all you and been around you, like, y'all really do have something special, man. You guys are, like, I feel like true artists. You guys are about the craft, and it's nice to see that out here, bro.
There's an energy, man. Like
For sure.
being around you guys, like you're at ease. You know,
Yes.
there's not some like weird feeling each other out.
You guys don't have egos, like, it's...
But it's been so cool. Like Nubs and I have been working on a bunch of shit. Like maybe a couple months ago, Nubs and I have never really worked on stuff together. Like we worked on stuff with the squad. But like if you look back over my catalog, it's like there's a Factor feature, there's a Snowman feature, there's no Nubs features. Like you know what I mean? I'm on some squad songs and stuff, but it's cool because like naturally he just got to a point recently where he was like hit me up at the halfway through the year, you got any extra beats? I was like yeah. I mean, like,
come through.
and
dude.
so we just sat there and he's like, oh, that one, and we just were he just released Mr. Big Shot.
Yeah.
And then he had Free Fallin'. I'm not sure if he's released another one in between
Dude,
that.
talk about a
But-
bag who's deep, dude. Nubs can sing and he
It's been so cool working on that stuff with him. Like it's been so rewarding. And then Factor and I worked on some new stuff recently too. Like anytime a song that's just been sitting there gets used, like I'm like, I made this for them. Like that's why I wasn't using it. Like that's what it was for.
Awesome.
You know what I mean? And maybe I got a little hook or an idea that they use, or they're like, no, lay that down. You know what I mean? So
Man.
they're the best. It's a great spot.
That's the point so many
That's awesome.
people that don't know each other are trying to get to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like that's just an actual team. Like that's a collective of people working together towards a shared goal. And if anyone makes it, you'd celebrate the win.
Yeah, they've allowed me to be completely as like myself more than most people in my life. Like just and reciprocated the insanity.
Yeah.
Like they're wild. They're great dudes, man.
It's awesome.
Heck yeah. You want to talk about nothing for free, dude? We got a few on there.
Go ahead.
dude.
I was gonna
yeah.
do hold up, but you hit that real quick.
All right, I got I got a couple I want to talk about on there, but one I got to talk about, Man on Fire.
Yeah.
So one of the things I noticed with your songs, dude, I listen and it's not like I don't want to say judging, but like I hear the song and just my brain goes to parallels. And so many times I would hear something in the intro of your song, maybe the first 30 seconds of it, and then there's not even like a moment that I noticed it, but all of a sudden I'm listening and I'm hearing something completely different. Like
Yeah.
they're very subtle. It's not like in rap you hear a guy switch up his flow and you're like, oh, it's more subtle with some of your music. But like this one, for example, the closest thing my brain went to it initially, I was like, if Rage Against the Machine went indie,
Yeah.
that's exactly what I would picture
Yeah.
them making.
Yeah.
And then like parts of the song though, dude, I get like Chris Stapleton come back to the country. But like I got like almost like because there's a rawness in your voice, and we'll get to that
I can
because
see what you're saying.
there's
yeah.
like a rawness to your voice. But like it's crazy for me. Like we've had people on here and we've had crazy diverse artists. But a lot of times when I say that, I think it's like, oh, you make like slow introspective music and then you make bangers.
Yeah.
Like you're actually like there's songs where I think you could name like 4 or 5 genres.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
indie,
Well, what did you-
indie, alt, pop,
Literally.
punk, pop.
Well, tell him what you
Hip-hop.
said. What album he needs to make. What do you remember? What you said?
I told Dom, I was like, I'm gonna joke with him. I'm like, yo, are we ever gonna just get a straight Kaleidoscope Kid reggae album? And I was like, you could be like, do it later in your career, like Snoop Dogg, and it would be the
Yes,
Kaleidoscope Lion. Because I love that. I
Well,
love
what was the track where he kind of did? Didn't he do a little like Jamaican kind of thing?
Yeah,
where we were
I
like, yo,
think
he
that
could
was-
go.
Yeah, you said something on the Rastafari. I think it was
That's
vibes.
on-
It
that's
was
on
vibes.
That was
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah. The way
yeah.
you float on that, I was like, he said that, and I was like, yo, that would slap.
That's hilarious. No, the
Bob
reggae
Marley
scene.
Jr. on there with
The
you?
reggae scene has been good to me. We've done like a lot of the reggae rise ups and like there's a great community of people.
Did you mess with
you know what I mean?
like Slightly Stupid, Pepper?
I
Like,
did, but I was such like a surface level with those dudes. Like,
Okay, yes.
I knew the big songs with Sublime. Like I was listening to the B sides and the acoustic
Okay.
albums and like all the weird stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
I saw Sublime with Rome. Never saw OG Sublime.
yeah,
RIP.
I was very like. There's just something about the way Bradley would switch up, like and integrate, like you said, like that's hip hop, pop, punk, reggae,
I'm trying to
alternative.
remember
You know
what
what I
it's-
mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
crazy.
truly though, it's like indie, alt, pop, punk, hip hop.
Yeah.
Like sometimes.
Man
yeah.
on Fire, and more specifically on the album, Moth to a Flame was totally rage. Like the way I'm playing the guitar on that, I'm just like have this
Yeah,
crazy
that
pedal,
one
and I'm
that's a
like,
battle cry. That's a
Yes.
battle cry.
you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but that I was definitely like Rage Against Machine, Cage the Elephant type of vibes with
Yeah.
those songs. You know what I mean?
Man on Fire I was like, if you had a musical blender and you just toss like, if you toss like Rage Against the Machine and like the Lumineers in there, just that's the smoothie that would come out right there.
I
Dude.
remember when
Lil Chris.
when I signed with the record deal back then, the first time, they were like, it sounds as if the Lumineers and Pink Floyd had a baby.
Pink Floyd,
or
okay, I can
something
see
like
that. I can
it
see
was
that.
like a psych, you know what I mean? I was like, that's such a, or it was like Beck and the Lumineers or something like that. I don't know, but yeah.
Listen, Beck deserves all the respect in the world. My quick tangent on Beck.
Yeah.
Beck, I remember he won the Grammy over Beyonce one year, and they were outraged by that. I saw one of the most like on point memes or whatever posts about that, and they just said this is why Beck won the Grammy. And you looked at the credits, it was like, I mean, honest to God, it was between 10 and 20 people on every single
That's
Beyonce
insane.
song,
literally.
and then they went through the Beck. It was just Beck.
Some
He did everything. He did everything.
One of my buddies sent me a meme recently where it's like somebody like putting a medal on themselves, and it was like he had put my name and then put the Kaleidoscope Kid, and then sent me a screenshot of my Spotify, because everything that it says the Kaleidoscope Kid, and it's like written and produced by Joshua Murphy. You know what I mean? It's like I've always produced everything of my own, always done all this stuff. You know
People
what I mean?
appreciate
I
that.
love Beck.
People appreciate that. Beck's
for
incredible.
for reasons like that. You know?
I'm sure this like outs me as not like a true Beck fan. I can't say I'm like super deep on his catalog, but dude, I was younger and I will never forget the first time I heard, I think it's Girl.
Yeah.
Hey, my son. Dude,
Oh yeah.
I remember hearing that and I was like, who is this fucking guy, dude?
You're like your head tilts.
Yeah, you're like, what
that?
is this? It was like a more upbeat, poppy Jack Johnson kind of vibe to it, and oh man, yeah. So much good music out there.
It's crazy you actually mentioned the Lumineers, because I heard from a birdie that the Lumineers cover you did was a game changer for you.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I did that cover. We were in Globe with my homie Tanner, and Tanner used to live out in Globe, and so he had a lot of access to these places out there. And we were shooting like 5 music videos in like 3 days.
Damn.
And we were in like this 100-year-old abandoned YMCA that's haunted, and in this jail cell. And
I'll
in
pull
these
up at the
prisons
Y
and
in a
all that stuff.
second, bro. Don't get it twisted.
Donald Trump filmed the hardest video at the YMCA. This band.
But so we filmed a music video that whole day, and so like we're just feeling good and everything like that, real successful day, everybody's stoked. And then I was like, all right, let's film this cover. We're in this big warehouse, the reverb's fucking beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, super cool.
Some natural acoustics.
And
yeah.
I was jamming that song, and we got back and we posted just the one take of it, just live in there. And that was when my agent Joe, who works for them, reached out to us, and like that was how we've got hooked up over at Wasserman, the agency.
Yeah.
And so like fucking that's been literally the most, like, one of the biggest catalysts for change. Those guys are incredible. And yeah, that was how we met, my agent Joe. And then but we just had a conversation at that point, and then I got signed to Suburban Noise. And,
Before you had a relationship with him?
before he was actually my agent.
Okay.
And he reached out because he was like, yo, dude, I went to go show somebody Azul, and I saw you took it down. What's up? And I was like, oh, we just signed with this deal. And that was when Matt...
He's like, these are things your could-be agent should know.
Matt kind of was just like, I remember being on like a 3-way call. He's like, so do you want to be our agent? Like, just kind of bluntly.
Hey, sometimes you just gotta
listen.
straight up ask.
And there was like a 2-3 second pause.
Shoot or
of
shoot.
Like,
Shoot or shoot, dude.
and he was like, yeah, I actually do. I kind of do. And so that was awesome. I'm so happy for him, like, seeing something in that music video. Like, he hit me up and was like, I see a bunch of, Lumineers covers all the time. That one really blew me away.
That's what
Like, the
I
way you
heard.
sung it. So that was amazing. It was beautiful. And, like, it was a year later. Like, we had that phone call, and it was a year later before we actually started working together. There's a certain thing where it's just, like, being patient, like, in this thing. It's, and the relationships and the people, it makes a difference. And I'm just so happy for the team that I have around me, because they work their ass off.
Y'all are killing it, dude.
I don't understand sometimes.
No, but it's everything you've worked towards, though, man. You deserve that shit.
I
Dude.
just feel like you see this sometimes, dude. Like, there's just like you find people that just there's a flow.
Yeah.
There are flows in life. And we all have our own flow, But you get into it, and it's when you're doing the right thing with the right people and you're passionate about it. Like it just takes off. And you're patient. Like you're not,
Yes.
you seem to do it with no expectation other than the output.
Because I know that I don't have, like, art for me is about, like, it's like we are art. Like, it's not about money. It's not about any of these things. It really isn't. So it's like, I would be doing this. If I don't make it, I'm just going to end up as a homeless person playing guitar with 2 strings somewhere. You know what I mean? Like,
But you're destined for greatness, though,
yeah,
dude.
it's,
You
I'm
have
like,
you have a gift.
I would be doing this either way.
You can call it intangibles, but maybe for some it is tangible. But to me, when there is an authenticity to music, I think people that really dig deep into music sense it and can identify it a little bit better. But I still think it has virtually the same effect on people that aren't as deep into music because it does make you feel something at your core.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of whether they can put their thumb on it. But like something about it draws them to it because it is authentic. And like that is the intangible, if you will, of like, why did that work? It was just me doing XYZ with my buddies.
Exactly.
That's exactly why it worked.
Yeah.
It's exactly why it worked. And maybe you couldn't recreate it all the time. But in that moment, that's what it is. And like, I think an acceptance of that from what we've been seeing, talking to people, is like anyone that just accepts that and lets it come to them, dude.
Exactly.
And then it's beautiful. Like, and maybe it takes a little longer in between sometimes, but if the output is consistent and doesn't have to be the same, yours is insanely diverse. But I do think that registers with people, whether it registers with them or not.
Exactly. Yeah, something connects with them. So whether it's the unconscious or something, and that's the goal. You know what I mean? Like, just for like that's the best feeling in the world for somebody to connect with it. So
I don't know if this is comfortable to bring up on camera. I might have heard something about a possible Virgin record deal. Is that something that's been maybe?
I'm not sure where things are at with that. I know Virgin is moving, merging with Universal Music Group, so they have this
UMG.
new thing. So it's Virgin Music Group. So if you go to Virgin Records website, it says Virgin Records will no longer be conducting business as usual, and they are in the midst of doing something, and I'm not really sure what we're allowed to talk about. but
Okay,
yeah.
all right. I didn't
Listen,
know if it was.
I know what I am allowed to say, and that's that Richard Branson is not your like think inside the box kind of guy. So I feel like I feel like there might be a shift where we've seen recently where, not to get political, but just in general, there is a noticeable shift from like watching the news to people watching things on YouTube and podcasts and like getting their information elsewhere. And I think we've commercialized music to this level where it's streaming and things like this. And I think that will always be a thing, but I do think there's going to be the hardcore music fans that are going to kind of fall out of that and be like, we want some deeper connection to the person that we're listening to. And I wouldn't be surprised to see things like big companies starting to go into people like that are super authentic like you.
And Virgin's been one of those things where Virgin's always been big on the innovative in the business side of things. So
The dude just started an
excited to
airline. Like, why would you break into that?
Yeah,
like, I
exactly.
couldn't think of a worse business to try and break into. And I'm just like, oh, yeah, just fucking fire some planes off there and get a terminal. Like, no.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to see that because I know they're going to be doing some cool things. They have some amazing artists on there right now. If you go to their website, you'll see a couple pictures just scrolling underneath that, and that's all they have up there right now.
Man.
One personal favor. If you get to the island that was on Cribs, where Mariah was in the outdoor shower, if you just send a pic, dude.
That's all I'm asking for.
Just one.
Have them take a picture with the Within Range logo. somewhere in the
Hey, no,
background.
I don't even just to send me a pic.
koozie.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Take
And
that
the
with
salute emoji, dude. I'll be fired up, dude.
Man.
Yeah. So
One other I got to talk about off Nothing for free before we move on, dude. Say goodbye, dude. So, again, music's art. Art's supposed to make you feel an emotion, dude. The emotion this made me feel, that was lazy Sunday, making a late breakfast, maybe a lunch kind of deal with your girl, likely making a little something extra, in addition to the culinary arts. What was the mindset for that one? Is that what you intended? Because that's what came through.
no, that one was so cool because I want to give a shout out to Corey Rios, one of my dear friends. His band is called the Hourglass Cats, and incredible like
name.
reggae alternative, and the acronym is THC. the Hourglass Cats, so
Oh.
THC.
Little gem in there. dude.
Exactly. And but so Corey hit me up. Actually, Corey fucking is produced that whole thing, the whole beat. You know, did all these harmonies, these beautiful like jazz 50s type harmonies and these things. And he sent it over to me, asking me to do a feature on it. And I did the feature, and it wasn't out yet. And I was like, "Yo, I'm working with Suburban right now. We should drop it on this album." So, but it's funny because I remember I was touring in New York right before the album was out. So like I was
Hitting
listening.
Greenwich in the spots, dude, out there.
I was in like Albany and
Oh, okay, more upstate a
Syracuse
little
and,
bit, yeah.
and upstate it was just fucking rolling hills. And
Say
Dude.
salt of the
yeah,
earth,
yeah,
New
yeah,
York,
yeah.
right there. That's
Yeah.
some
And
buffalo
I'm
wings.
listening to the album, and you know sometimes you're so too close to the project to really hear the
100%.
music. And I don't know, but it was where I had it in the playlist. It was the last song. I think it's the last song on the album. Might be. No, I can't remember. But so it got to that last song, and like you said, it took me out of my body. I mean, really beautiful experience, and just hearing the harmonies in these nuanced ways, and like I hadn't sat with it and listened to it in a way. And I'm on tour. I'm doing all this stuff. Like I think I opened for Milky Chance on that.
Okay,
run
really
and
quick,
shit at one
we gotta
point.
touch on the tour, dude. I saw a lot of names there. I can't say I knew all of them, but there was one that stood out because top 10 slam dunk, probably top 5 band all time for me personally. You opened for Incubus.
That's hard,
Like,
dude.
I don't know why
You wanna-
I was doing some of the things I was doing.
You wanna
or
ta-
how.
let-
Yeah,
like,
listen,
let me say
meant
this.
to be, dude.
Forget anything grown in the earth, dude. Like Incubus is a psychedelic experience. I saw them at the Celebrity Theater, or I think at the time it was Comerica or whatever it is downtown. I would imagine it's like what people feel seeing Adele, where it's like, oh, this is exactly what I heard on the album. It was indistinguishable from the album recording. Indistinguishable. Like actually, you
Exactly.
couldn't even the effects. It was just them.
Kyrie is a huge Incubus fan too, so I remember when
No
I
way.
found
Really?
out I
I didn't
got
know that.
I was like, first person I thought it was Kyrie. You know what I
That's
mean? I
awesome.
was like, dude, he's gonna trip.
Shout out
Dude,
the boy.
aqueous
dude.
transmissions, dude.
See, I wasn't that into it. Like
I don't
that.
know
Oh,
Incubus.
dude,
I don't
is-
know him like
Incubus
that.
is.
I know they're a big
is-
band,
But they treated me so well. I had
I put them above the Chili Peppers.
I had probably
Come at me.
Oh really?
I put them above the
Whoa.
Chili Peppers. Come
That's
at
one of
me.
your favorite- we know you like
I
Chili Peppers,
I
too.
love the Peps.
Yeah,
I
we
love
know
them,
he
but
likes the
I-
Peps.
Incubus.
The fact that you put it in there, I'm like, oh okay, I should probably look more deep. Look into
I can-
it.
I'll
check it out,
dude.
Like,
Yeah.
But no, it was. They gave me like they put me in this like probably like fucking dude like $80,000 Airstream for my green room, and it was just me, and it was in Ohio, and my mom's family's from there, so
Oh,
like
wow.
I had a couple of my aunts, and they're like
Yo.
getting escorted in the golf carts
Oh,
around
dude,
with me, and
Hollywood,
like, they were
dude.
just being so. They were like, he's a rock star, and it was like
Yes.
it was like a you know, like a fairgrounds type of show. Like it was
Okay.
out in the middle of a big field kind of thing.
It's sad that
vibes,
Incubus
you
is
know what I
playing a
mean?
fair
Like,
because, god dang it, Cardi B's selling out arenas.
Hey, it's
What
all
the
right, though,
fuck?
dude.
it was
That's- that's-
exactly
happens,
it was like it was a great time, but it was like it was a big it was an interesting setup, you know what I mean? But it was just awesome. But like I said, like I was doing shows, opening up for like incredible bands with just me and a fucking guitar and
Dude.
an iPad plugged in.
That's
And-
awesome.
And sometimes
dude.
Matt DJing behind me. You know what I mean?
Hey, you know Matt's got the towel around him back there. Dude.
Yeah.
You know he's out there working.
And I'm like, why didn't you guys let me do that?
Dude.
Man, I mean, we're talking about live stuff, dude. So I'm curious to know about this because this is when I mentioned you got some song out like name changes on YouTube. I found you did these live performances filmed by none other than the boy manager Matt.
Yeah.
It was the Paper Tigers EP live performances.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
said?
yeah, yeah.
But I thought is Paper Tigers an album or is that an EP? It's a long EP.
No, it's
That's a very extended play. So okay, but there were songs. but I like it. I love that. But there were songs on there. So when I was young, is what it was called when you were performing it there live, and I'm pretty sure that's Euphoria.
It was called Dear Taylor before, and then I changed it to Euphoria.
Damn.
Oh, okay. I thought that was the same song. Okay, but were there other songs on there? Because I was trying to find those names on the album,
No, it's
and then
for
I'm
sure.
listening to them, and I thought I heard a few on there. So did you change the names as they went?
I
or-
changed. I think Euphoria was the only one, and I meant to call it Dear Taylor. It was one of those things where, like, but Euphoria. I think because I wrote the song back in 2020, and I think maybe it was when Euphoria had just came out, the TV show.
Because it's
Oh,
in there,
that's
and
a
then When I
crazy
Was Young
show
was in
too,
there
dude.
too. So like it
Crazy
all
show.
fit, but I was like, what's the official name? dude?
Exactly. Yeah. No.
It's
yeah.
nice fan lore.
So it ended up as Euphoria. I think that was the only song. I think Allison was originally called Your Room's a Mess, which changed to Allison. It was just a little
Great title
catchier,
change,
You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, but no, other than that, I mean, there's nothing that's coming off the top of my head. But yeah, I've pulled a lot of shit down, and I still get people hitting me up like, "Where's this song? There's
No
this
shit.
song," and you know what I mean. I'm
so
like,
we ain't
"Oh
the
my
only
God."
ones.
Well, that's the thing that I loved about it is like you listen to like everything, your music videos, things that are out in the album that you record in a studio, and it's like that there's talent there, but there are effects that you use and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, what does this guy sound like, just for real? And there's
Exactly.
so many artists out there that sound amazing, and then you're like, you hear them live, and you're like, okay, that's something. And then you watch these performances, and you're like, oh, it's just raw talent. That's why I'm enjoying watching this guy blend like 5 genres at once. Like I think that was one of the best things you put out. Like that was raw. And then again, country roots to it. Like there was a few of those.
yeah.
Like the first 2 songs, I'm like, if you slowed it down, because you had the indie, it was an indie vibe.
Yep.
But if you slowed that down,
Yeah.
that's a country song.
Yeah, no,
those
for
are
sure.
country songs.
For sure. No, 100%.
If you drop that, probably cut the BPM in half. Like, yeah.
I love some Sheryl Crow, Shania Twain.
Nice, hell yeah. Little picture, Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow.
Yeah, no, but the Paper Tigers, the acoustic. So yeah, we're about to drop the acoustic album probably because we have a show on December 29th at Rebel Lounge right here, and so I have this.
Send the invite.
I
dude.
have this
I'm pulling
acoustic
up.
album that's on that I literally recorded like 2-3 months ago. It was like, all right, let me just record Paper Tigers, and I threw a couple extra songs in there and stuff as well too that weren't on Paper Tigers that I wrote back then. But so we're about to drop that, and then I got like 3 other albums I'm sitting on right now that I'm like just like kind of waiting to pitch to people and do things, but we're just gonna keep rolling shit out. Like I have the next 4 years of music planned. That's where I'm at.
Hey, listen. Perfect segue, bro. What's next? What can we expect? What can we look out for?
Yeah. So we're gonna drop. We have this last show at the end of the year, December 29th. Next year, fingers crossed, we're gonna be on the road more, have some tour dates. We just got out of this record deal. We have a great team around us, and we're in between, this part of this chapter and the next chapter right now, turning that page. And my intention is to just keep putting out music until we find a home that feels good for us. Outside of that, it's like I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and keep the team of people around me. My managers, my agent, my everybody doing their thing, and just fingers crossed. You know what I mean? That.
Just keep riding the flow, dude. You just keep
Dude,
surfing the
keep
wave.
going.
Like
bro.
my goal right now is because I've never until roughly a year and a half ago, I had never played with a band before, and then all of a sudden I was touring, playing, the Disney House of Blues in Anaheim, and playing Brooklyn Bowl in Vegas, and doing all these shows and stuff with the band, and doing these things.
Crazy.
Never played with a band before, you know what I mean? Our first show was sponsored by the radio station. They're out there giving away tickets for other shows and bringing us in for interviews and doing shit like that. And so my biggest thing this past year, like I'm in the studio constantly, but then we're rehearsing constantly and getting that live performance dialed in. So just being on the road with those guys is like the goal. I want to just be fucking traveling and be, it's the best thing in the world, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm nomadic as fuck, and I just want to be traveling with those guys. They're the best.
That fits
Shout
well
out to the
'cause-
fucking band.
Hell yeah, dude.
That fits well, man. Like, because it doesn't sound like it's the main motivation, but also economically for, I think, music artists, touring and live performances, if you have a great live show, like that's where building that community is mutually beneficial. People get something to do, and artists benefit the most
Exactly.
from that too. It's a good place to be.
I always look at it like, to me, like I'm like, we don't have a lot of like rites of passages in Western culture,
Yeah.
and like music to me, more than a sort of career or anything, it's been my pilgrimage and my rite of passage to figure out who I am as a person, who I am as a man, and who I am as a friend and a partner and these things.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I go out and I get to see the fucking world, it's not about anything other than just, it's all the lesson that the universe is teaching me back. You know what I mean? It's like, it's all the teaching and all the work. And it happens so wild when you're out there. Just like, I always say, I'm like, I'm just in a trust fall with the universe. Like, just fall back.
beautiful.
I'm like, you better fucking catch me, you motherfucker. Like, you know
Dude.
what I mean?
Dude, what a gem to go out on.
That's
that
what I'm
was
saying,
beautiful.
bro. Like you ended up here. We're honored to have you on, man. Again, we've been following, we've been keeping up. You're making a huge impact, bro. Keep going. We're gonna keep up with you. Anytime you want to pop on our platform, share what you got going on, more than welcome, man. But we appreciate you blessing us, bro.
Yes, dude. Thank you guys so much for having me. Yeah,
Thank you, man.
appreciate
It was an honor.
Oh yeah.
Sweet.
Heck yeah, man. All right.
That was good, dude. Yeah, that might have.
Hour and a half.